Today's lesson is on ionic compounds, their formulae, and naming them once we know what their formula is. The first thing you need to know about ionic compounds is that charges, specifically preferred charges of S and P elements, are going to be highly important when talking about ionic compounds. Another thing to know is that an ionic compound is always going to include a metal atom giving electrons to a non-metal atom. This is going to mean that the metal always becomes positive and the non-metal is always going to become negative. This is very important to keep in mind as we continue to talk about ionic compounds, how to name them, and how to determine their formulae. First, let's just do a series of examples. The first example would be, what would the ionic formula and the name be of a compound formed between sodium and oxygen? In order to determine this, we're going to have to look at the preferred charges. Sodium is in family 1A, and it's going to have a preferred charge of 1. Oxygen is in family 6A, and is going to have a preferred charge of -2. Now, in an ionic compound, these charges must add up to 0, and currently they do not. They add up to -1. So I have to figure out what can I do to get these charges to add to 0. What I can do is I can give myself 2 sodium atoms. This is going to lead me to have 2 + 1 charges, and my charges are going to equal 0. Now I know that my formula is going to be sodium, there are 2 of them, and an oxygen. The name of this is very simple. The name of simple ionic compounds is simply the name of the metal, sodium, and the name of the nonmetal with the ending changed to "ide." So instead of oxygen, we're going to write sodium oxide. Let's do a few more examples. If I wanted to make a compound between magnesium and, let's say, sulfur, again, first I'm going to start by consulting my preferred charges. Magnesium is in family 2A, so it's going to have a charge of +2. Sulfur is in family 6A, it's going to have a charge of -2. These charges already add up to 0, which means that I don't have to think about how many of each of these I have. I know that I have 1 Mg and 1 S. In this case, the naming is very simple. Magnesium, since it is the positive thing, we just give it its name. And sulfur, since it is the negative ion, we're going to take its name and add IDE to the end. Sulfide.